Let's talk about handling the talent. It's written in the torch that guys are now becoming fearful of saying anything critical of the company in public interviews, as if that would have been a topic of conversation on the WWE side of things. That's the thing that makes me laugh about this, Jeff, because the report is that AJ Styles did an interview where he said he would be opposed to wrestling on a show where there was a topless woman appearing on the show. And afterwards, he did a job for Glenn Gilberti. So the internet decides, well, that must be punishment. And supposedly, D'Lo Brown talks about having interest in going back to WWE someday, like never say never, or sure, I'd like to get back another shot with WWE. And then he has his push scaled back. And now the guys are thinking, hey, maybe I shouldn't say anything bad about the company I work for. It's like, duh. This wouldn't even be a topic in the WWF. But also, too, maybe it represents some hurt feelings in the locker room. Ron Killings, who recently was critical of the company on radio, does another appearance, and they bring up all these new guys who are making their debut fresh off WWE TV. And he says, quote, you dance with the one who you came to the show with. And he talks about how there's a number of members of the roster who started with TNA, and now they're being sort of pushed down the card to make room for these new WWE guys. Quote, fuck that, Ron Killing says. Set the record straight. Should any company ever go out and do interviews and talk negatively about the company they work for? That's just silly, is it not?
Let me ask you this, because when I read that, but before I even read that, I've often thought, is there any other business that it's almost commonplace that you bite the hand that feeds you?
No, I can't think of one.
Conrad, and what I don't understand, and look, I'm positive I've said so many dumb things in my career, but the simplistic of I'll call it media training. And when I used to have to go to Paragould, Arkansas, or Vincennes, Indiana, or Madisonville, Kentucky, and talk to the newspaper or be on the radio or whatever it may be, you kind of get that media training. And even in late 80s and early 90s, before I got WWF, I never called it media training, but I got a lot of reps in, and you kind of understand, okay, this DJ is wanting me to say something that is something that he can talk about. In my mind, this is where it used to be. This DJ wants me to say something that he can talk about for the rest of his show, even when I'm gone. But nowadays, it's the most simplistic deal. Whoever's interviewing you, they want clickbait. They want a comment that is incites an opinion, good or bad, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, just all that. But in our industry, so many times folks will say stuff that is pretty heavy-handed, talking about the place, the company that literally signs their check.
Yeah.
And I always think, okay, I can almost, on some cases, I'm going to say, Conrad, I might even agree with them. But with that being said, anybody looking for future employment, if you're going to leave the place that you're bashing, how do you know you're not going to bash the company that you're wanting to get to? If you'll bash the paycheck that's feeding you now, you're probably going to bash it in the future. That's always, to me, the head scratcher. And it reflects, to me, it doesn't really reflect on the company. It reflects on the person that says it. And you go, oop, they're bitter. Ugh. It just doesn't taste well. I wish I could think of another form of business that it's commonplace that you bash the place that you work. I don't know, man. Connie, it's a wild, wacky world we live in 2023. But when we go back 20 years and we're talking about this, It happened then, and I'm sure it's happened since the beginning of time. It is what it is.